The financial system is under attack. The cracks are beginning to show as banks are being bailed out and hard-working people yet again are left to pick up the pieces. This is unacceptable. We were told that after the 2008 financial crash that measures were put in place so that this could not happen again. Personally, I don't want to risk my family's financial future to find out if that's true or not. Are you prepared? Do you have a plan? Can you weather the storm with confidence? Don't be at the back of the line. Act now. Visit goldbusters.co.uk and protect your family today.
Welcome to today's Gold Show with my partner in crime, Paul Brooker, and Goldbuster boy, Adam. Be sure to stay tuned in to see if you have won a 1 ounce silver coin, which will be announced at the end of the show. Good morning, gentlemen. Shall we start with some good news?
Let's do it.
Brilliant. What you got for us then, Drew?
So, first up, the US dollar has just hit its strongest level in 2 months, spurred by former President Trump's defense of massive tariff increases on foreign imports.
I like this story because I watched that interview where Trump talked about it. If you drop the reserve dollar, we will put 100% tariff increase on anything that you ship into the US. Now, these companies that produce stuff, e.g. China, the biggest producer on the planet, they can't afford to have everything they ship cost double. Now, this is a very good plan by Trump to reaffirm the dollar as the reserve currency of the world. Whereas if they trade in dollars, then there won't be the tariffs. So he's got big plans to strengthen the economy. So this is some very good news on that front. What are your thoughts on this, Adam?
I think Trump knows that, well, Trump's plan is to strengthen the American economy for the American people. And I think the US economy can have ripple effects around the world. And I think this can be really positive. And I think Trump doesn't want to lord it over people in a kind of bully in the playground, but it's more a supportive mechanism. And I think it's going to be a welcome change. And I think obviously there's going to be battles of power around the world, but I think the US reserve currency keeping strong is going to benefit more people than it hurts, for sure.
And there's something else that's keeping strong, isn't there, Adam?
Yeah, so you've got inflation, which is coming down in many countries. I mean, this was always the case. Inflation peaked and it was always going to come down. This is prompted by interest rates going up as a countermeasure to inflation. Now, interest rates coming down can be good. It can stimulate the economy and things like that. The only thing I would say to people is we've seen a long period of time at zero interest rates, let's say 10, 15 years. This wasn't the norm. This was the exception. But a lot of people have grown up in that environment, and that has been the norm. So my thoughts on this are, as interest rates come down, it may enable people to have bigger mortgages, or even just have a mortgage or buy a house. But I would just a word of warning that interest rates are not typically zero or close to zero. So please don't be lured in by low interest rates and then max everything out at a very low interest rate, because interest rates do go up, as we've seen. So it's good, but there's a cautionary tale when you look back at history. Don't max yourself on the low interest rate, because as soon as they go up, you find yourself feeling squeezed quite quickly.
Yeah, that is 100% right there, Adam. And I'm going back years ago when I was in my late teens. Low interest rates meant you could borrow money quite easily. And back then, it was a lot easier to borrow money. It's a little bit tougher now, but I got myself into a pickle because I could borrow money so easily. And then interest rates do go up. And I don't know anybody out there who hasn't been a young adult and got themselves into a spot of bother. So 100% agree with you there on that one.
Yeah, I think what most people do is they go to the bank and they say, this is our this is what we earn, this is our income, this is our expenses. What's the maximum we can borrow? And it's maximum in the most favourable economic conditions. And those conditions don't stick around forever. So rather than saying what's the maximum in the best conditions, stress test it a little bit and say, what can we borrow if interest rates, go up by whatever, put a buffer in there and make sure you're kind of future-proofing yourself. That's the key.
I mean, in an ideal world, we wouldn't borrow anything. I mean, that's where we all need to be, that we don't have to borrow money. So you need to start thinking about future plans. I'm sorry, but all these people who say live for the now, they're the ones that end up complaining the most, because all they do is live for the now. There's a heavy balance here between living for the now and planning for the future. All I ever do now is plan for my children's future, and all my business moves are related to that. On the back end of you saying about the inflation, I just want to share an image with everybody over the UK. So in the UK, a surprise fall in inflation paves the way for interest rate cuts. Now, inflation has dropped to 1.7. The UK or the Bank of England, I should say, sets a 2% target. So if it falls below 2%, that's when interest rate cuts start kicking in. The problem you've got with that is, yes, the interest rate may drop, but the borrowing is always a couple of months behind when the interest rate actually does drop. But this is good news for those people who need to borrow in the UK.
Well, moving to cryptocurrencies, we've heard some big news regarding the SEC. Paul, what's going on there?
Well, this is it. The SEC had till yesterday evening, I believe, to file the Form 5, which is the appeal against the ruling that Ripple secured, where it deemed XRP was not a security. Now, the SEC filed that form one day late. And funnily enough, I was talking to a crypto guy yesterday about this, and we were saying, yes, the SEC's missed the date. Brilliant. They've screwed up. But somehow they've been allowed to file this the day after, which I think is a bit naughty.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But they are filing to try and get XRP, Ripple, whatever you want to call it, deemed a security again. And that's not good, because it's not a security. It is a totally different beast in my eyes. This should have its own governing body and its own control measures put in place around it. But the SEC, run by Gary Gensler, fancy their chances. What I foresee is when President Trump gets back in, he's going to fire Gensler, which he said in a recent speech. And I think he's just going to progress with moving forwards into the next iteration of finances, because decentralized finance, blockchain technology, it's all here to stay. I'm sorry for the older generations that won't understand this, but it's like when credit cards first came out, when checks first came out. You'd show everybody your credit card and the long number on it back in the beginning. Here, look at this. And they got scammed, dodgy checks, all sorts. We're just going through our teething process. This is here to stay, and people need to educate themselves, because it's only going to get bigger moving forward. But I can see this appeal isn't going to happen.
And moving on to gold and silver. We're having a fabulous week, aren't we, Adam?
Yeah, it's good news on all on gold and silver front. So my job is easy. Look, for the last few times we've done this show, gold has continually been at all-time highs and breaking those all-time highs. So gold surpassed $2,700 an ounce for the first time, and it's not gone up and kind of turned back down. It's on a nice, it's trended upwards very nicely. So yeah, again, we've talked about the driving factors in this, more uncertainty, more instability around the world, and when we look ahead, more to come. So there's no surprise that people are turning to gold as that safe haven asset, proving itself once again. And this is a thing we should always mention. People have said in the past, oh, gold's at an all-time high. All-time highs are there to be broken, and gold has continually done that. So The gold silver ratio right now, which is something we look at, is around 84.5, something like that. That being said, that would mean that we actually buy silver right now. If we were buying today, we'd be buying silver. So that means silver is actually on sale compared to gold. And that's the one that we'd be looking at. Silver, again, around $32 an ounce, which is, not too bad. Anyone that's bought silver, in the past kind of 6 months will have seen a nice increase. And I think, look, we always say it's about being independent and having something that you understand. If crypto, I totally agree, Paul. I think crypto is here to stay. But if you want something that you can understand, maybe you want it in your hand, maybe you want it in the vault, maybe you want a bit of both. Metals are very simple. They're easy. They make sense. There's only so much in the world. You can't mine it forever. It's a limited resource, and they've stood the test of time. And I think that shows with when there is some instability, people turn to them. They turn to what they know. And we're seeing good things on the metals front.
I'll give you a little fact as well in what's going on with silver at the moment. There's like new technology that's coming out. It's like a breakthrough to revolutionize electronics. And it's self-healing that occurs in metal solids without any external intervention is what they're looking into, which is that's quite big.
I think silver in particular has some quite interesting properties as a metal. I think it's like one of the most reflective metals. It has one of the highest electrical conductivities and all these different things, which means the way that silver differs to gold is mainly just bought and hoarded. It's just stored. It just kind of sits there, gathering dust. Whereas silver actually has uses, industrial uses, and it's used up in industry. So it's no surprise that there are more things being uncovered about the properties of silver that become useful. When you look into the use of silver, it's things you would never even think of that use silver, and then there's the things that we do know of, the solar panels, the electric cars, all those things. So, another driving factor for why silver will hold its value over time.
I've also got something to add on to that, and I don't know if you're aware of this. I was talking to a wonderful lady in the satellite industry. Gold is the only precious metal, or the only metal, I should say, that doesn't degrade in space. So with Elon Musk pushing for space travel, I think gold is going to play a massive factor in that. And it's going to be phenomenal, because she said they use gold in all the satellites because it is the metal to use.
Yeah, wow. No, I didn't know that, Paul. I think it'll be interesting to see in the future, maybe there's a gold vault in space where people want to hold their gold over time to, keep it safe. But yeah, I think, look, metals have their uses. In satellites, wow, very, very interesting.
Well, let's talk ASML. They are big on a global scale. For those of you that do not know, it's the semiconductor market. This is Europe's largest tech firm, which is projecting lower than expected sales for 2025. Guys, do you know what I find strange? There is a strong demand for AI. Despite the strong demand, it has sent shockwaves through the industry, and I'll tell you why. The immediate 15% plunge in ASML shares, which resulted in a staggering £34 billion loss in market value. And what's more alarming is the ripple effect on major players like Nvidia, which saw a 5% drop, and a 130 billion loss, raises questions about the stability of the market as a whole. But it's not just isolated to ASML. Nvidia, ARM, BP, Shell, they all experienced the decline. In one day, it led to an astonishing 8 billion loss in just one day. What do you think, Adam?
So I think, look, I think if you zoom into any part of the graph of performance, you can see whatever you want to see. And I'm not saying this is not a big thing. It's obviously is a big drop, but is it a big drop within a general uptrend? And that's the thing that I would always look at. If you're, people always say to us about metals, oh, gold went down in the last month. And we say, well, look, are you wanting to invest for 1 month? No, I wanted to do it for longer. Okay, then the 1 month performance doesn't matter. You need to look at the overall trend. If this is a decline that then continues, then obviously that changes things. But is it just a blip in an overall uptrend? And if so, don't worry about it too much, I guess I would say. But context is everything. So I think what happens as well is when there's a decline in one company within a sector, the whole sector tends to get a bit of a hit because people are looking, okay, well, if there's something wrong with that company or there's lower earnings than expected, then maybe there is with this company as well. Maybe it's something that's industry wide, but it's all to do with expectation versus reality. If the expectation is this is going to keep going up and it doesn't, that's when people get worried. So maybe it was the expectation was too high and the reality is just kind of resetting that. Or maybe, look, it was just a blip in the overall uptrend. I would say to people, zoom out, have a look. I don't think semiconductors are about to disappear. I think they're definitely a needed technology. So, yeah, maybe it's just a mismanagement of that individual company that's had an impact.
More news for this week was the UAE Central Bank approves the launch of an AED-pegged crypto stablecoin. Paul, can you explain a little bit about what this means for our viewers?
Well, for those who don't know, a stablecoin is pegged to a certain thing, whether it be a dollar, a gold bar, an ounce of silver. They pick something to put it to it. And no matter what, it will stay at that price. Now, the reason why they want stable coins out there, which I think is going to play a massive part in the future moving forwards, because the general public do not want to look at their bank account and it's gone down or it's gone up. And the roller coaster is too much for most ordinary people to handle. So they bring out these stable coins, which by the sounds of it is going to be the next iteration of finance for countries. You will have AED pegged to the dollar. So one AED digital coin will be $1. And this is something that all countries now are starting to adopt because the banks don't want the fluctuations like crazy. They want something steady that they can control and they can manage, because no one wants to send the money from the UK to Australia and you've lost 20,000 from it because something happened in the market. And this is where stable coins are going to play a big part moving forwards.
I was just going to add one thing there. I was watching something a while ago, and the current system of transferring money is actually very slow. And I heard a guy say, look, if he was in Los Angeles and he wanted to get $10,000 to the UK, the quickest way to get it there is to fly, not to send it via the SWIFT system, which is madness. The fact that you can physically deliver the cash quicker than you can transfer it digitally. And that's where I think stable coins with countries is going to play a big part, that transactions are going to be instant or very close to instant, meaning that the outdated SWIFT system won't be used anymore. I mean, it's mad that you can fly money quicker than you can send it in today's digital age where everything is instant. So, yeah, I think definitely one to watch. We need to be aware of what control governments are trying to have when they're doing this. But there will be some upsides for people generally as well.
Well, I will finish with a fun fact of the day. If all the existing gold in the world was pulled into a 5-micron thick wire, it could wrap around the world 11.2 million times. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for joining us on The Gold Show. This week's lucky winner is Steel Melchizedek. Congratulations, you have won an 1 ounce silver coin. If you want to join us on our weekly competition to win a 1 ounce silver coin, watch our show and then go to the website thegoldshow.com/competition and answer the question to be re-entered into the free draw to have a chance to win. So just a reminder, you have to re-enter each week to enter into the lucky draw. Gentlemen, I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later, Drew. And don't forget, everybody, if you are interested in buying gold and silver, please reach out to Adam at goldbusters.co.uk because he will be able to help you in your journey to buying gold and silver. So take care.